And welcome to another episode. Glad to have you today. Today we're going to be talking about the Dashcam Sentry mode and specifically getting your USB drive that you're going to plug into the car and how to format that. It's not as simple as plug and play. You can't just plug in a thumb drive into the car and it start working. You actually have to format it. And it is outlined in the owner's manual, but to make things simple, we're going to do it together today. All right, so first and foremost, you need to go out and get a USB drive. You probably have a handful of them laying around, but there are some minimum requirements that you have to have, which is important. I had a couple of USB drives laying around, but they were only 1 gigabyte, which is less than the minimum that you need to be able to do this. So it's recommended you get a 32 gigabyte or larger. So think about it. All the cameras that are on the car are going to be able to record if you have this plugged into your car. So with both side cameras, the front camera, the rear camera, that's a lot of data. And how this thing works is it records an hour increment, but when you save, it'll save the last 10 minutes of recording on every camera. So that's a lot of data that it's going to be going through. So before you go out and buy your USB, keep these things in mind. Number one, the USB drive needs to be 32 gigs or more. I personally bought a 64 gig because it wasn't too much more. You can even go up to 128. There's quite a few options out there. And these things have come down quite a bit in cost. So I would get a pretty decent sized one, 32 or larger, so that way there's less rewriting happening. Understand that once it fills up, it just goes back and it starts re-recording over what it had previously had on the USB drive. So you need to buy a high quality USB drive. This can't just be a simple, you're not just putting Word documents on this thing, you're recording video and writing video constantly. So buy a decent USB drive. Go certainly with a name brand, but also if they're not stating their speed on the packaging, you can pretty well guarantee it's not going to write fast enough to keep up. One of the minimum requirements is it needs to be able to write 4 megabytes a second. That's right. That's a writing speed. So keep that in mind. And also that is a sustained speed, not peak speed. So make sure that it accommodates at least a 4 megabyte a second writing speed. Next, as many people know, USB 3.0 is out, and it has been out for a while. There's a lot of USB devices that are 2.0, and those are fine. If you get a USB 3, which is most of what's available nowadays, it has to be backwards compatible. So you need to look on the packaging on the back and make sure that it does state that it is compatible with USB 2.0. If it's not, it won't work. So we've talked about the minimum requirements for the USB drive: 32 gig or greater, 4 megabyte a second speed or faster, and at least backwards compatible to USB 2.0. Next, we need to talk about the formatting. So you can't just plug this into the car and it starts recording. You actually need to format it to a FAT32 format, and I will show you how to do that now. If you're running Windows 10 and you're using larger than a 32 gigabyte flash drive, you're not going to be able to right click and format this device to a FAT32. It just doesn't work. I don't know why, but it's built in the code. Anyways, there is a workaround. Downloaded Aomi Partition Assistant, and let me show you what that looks like. So this is the landing screen, and we can see our D drive is right here. And that is Aomi Partition Assistant. This is a standard edition, it was free. And we just right click and format. And it allows you to select FAT32 right there. All right, so we've selected the format. So now let's apply. Yep, we want it to be FAT32. Proceed. Okay, and it worked. I can now see, I can open the drive now. So the next thing that you need to do is you need to create a new folder, and it needs to be titled Tesla Cam, one word, capital T and a capital C. Okay, now we have our new folder, and this is where all of the saved files are going to be. So as you save events on your dash cam, it's going to automatically fall in under here. All right, so now that we have our thumb drive formatted for the correct format for the car to read it and write on it, couple of things. One, the dash cam and all the surrounding cameras, they record in 60-minute increments, so it'll keep a file for 60 minutes. Now when you go to save, it'll save the previous 10 minutes. So that's something that you have to do if you want to save a clip. So let's go ahead and plug this in and see if everything works out right. It should prompt us that it recognizes that there's now a device plugged into the car for saving videos. All right, so as you probably know, with the Model Y, we have a USB-C that the wireless charger is plugged into, and one standard USB plug over here. So let's go ahead and plug this in down here. All right, so now you can see it has recognized that there's a device in there, and that's what this little camera's for. So when it's red, it's recording, and you can press it and you can save footage, or you can launch the viewer. This is a new update in the car. You can now watch your camera footage from inside the car, which is great. You don't have to unplug the USB anymore to view that. So now I can see that it's recording when I'm using the car. Press and hold that, it just turned off by pressing and hold, so now it will not record. If you press and hold again, then it goes back on and it's recording. So again, there's your options. You can save your footage and launch viewer. Just come on over here and hit that, and it automatically starts saving, which is pretty nifty. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look. If we go into our safety and security, we can now we now have the option to save clips on honk, and that means if you honk your horn, it'll automatically prompt the footage to save to the drive as an event. So that way you can go back and find it later. Otherwise, if you don't, either manually save it by following the prompts up on the camera, or if you have honk enabled, then it won't automatically save. So it'll just keep rewriting over everything. That's the only way, that's the only two ways to save your footage. And you want to do that if you catch something later. Also, now that we have a storage device plugged in, we can do Sentry mode. We can turn it on, and that will allow the car's cameras to stay on while it's parked. And if it catches anybody too close or trying to break in or whatever, it'll start automatically recording all the cameras, which is great. It also has additional features, like if somebody does end up getting into the vehicle, it'll blare music. The screen's going to show up as it's recording, just to alert people outside, hey, you're being recorded. And there's a new look to it. Unfortunately, HAL is no longer valid for Tesla to keep on these screens. So new look there, but good enough. The nice thing about Sentry Mode is if you turn it on, you can also exclude like home, you can exclude work, you can exclude favorites. So example, at home, I park in the garage. I don't need Sentry Mode to be on, so I can exclude that. At work, it's a secure parking lot. If you're in a parking garage or a locked facility, then maybe you don't need to have Sentry Mode running while you're parked there. And since it knows where work is, it can exclude that. Also, if you have favorites, a specific place you go that you're not worried about the security of your car, you can also exclude favorites. So like my parents' house as an example, I have that stored in there. So that's pretty neat. So it's not always going to be on at specific places, but I'm going to turn that off. All right, so let's check out how to review these videos. So you have to be in park first and foremost. Just open it up, launch viewer, and it's automatically going to launch your last video. But you can see all your stored videos right here. So pretty good stuff. Very convenient that it's right here, so you can quickly see ones that you saved anyways. So if you need to go beyond that, you'll have to load it up on your computer. So I hope that this video was informative. I hope this helped you out. I know when I looked at doing this, it seemed pretty complicated because you have to format that thumb drive, and that's kind of annoying, but it is what it is. I highly recommend the format writer that I downloaded, that I showed you in this video. I highly recommend it. It took seconds to format the whole thing. I tried using the in-computer device manager to try to write in the code to be able to format this thumb drive to be FAT32. And after an hour and a half of waiting, it failed. The operating system just will not let you do it. Anything over 32 gigabytes. So don't even waste your time. Just use the utility writer that I showed on the video, and it's super fast. Get the largest device that you want. You can't go wrong with getting bigger. It'll be interesting to see how long this thumb drive lasts, given how much we're going to write. I did go ahead and go up to a 64 gig. You can go even higher, which is probably recommended. But those are the steps that you need to follow in order to get your cameras to start working for you. So again, I hope that this video was helpful. I hope it was informative. If it was, like this video, subscribe to the channel. I'll continue providing content that should be useful for you new Tesla Model Y owners. Thanks for joining us today. We'll catch you next time.